Last week, I realized something I love had gone missing. This is the butternut donut, a golden crunchy crumb classic. And seriously, I couldn't find it anywhere. My go-to dunks, no butternut. The mobile app, no butternut. So I did what any sane person would do. I hit up all 20 Dunkins within a 1-mile radius. A TikTok rabbit hole later, I learned I wasn't alone.
Dear Dunkin' Donuts, I just went through your drive-thru and I ordered a coffee and a butternut donut. I've been told that the butternut donut is being discontinued. Pardon?
Some Dunkin' employees have noted that it's seasonal. Some customers have noticed it depends on the store. Others acknowledge that it used to be there all the time. And several, like me, are frustrated by not knowing. But here's the thing. I reached out to the company directly and called more than a dozen Dunks across the country. And nothing. Nada. Zilch. No official explanation when I asked store employees. And as of making this video, no response from Dunkin' Corporate. The one thing we know for sure is the butternut donut isn't available like it used to be. And after all this searching, I may not have an exact answer why, but after digging into decades of food regulation, following a few interesting rabbit holes, and studying exactly how donuts are made, I do have a very strong suspicion that the answer may lie inside this very crumb. This isn't just a story about a missing donut. It's a story about how a business thinks about trade-offs and the rules that decide if a company's core product stays or goes. This is an image of the Dunkin' I grew up with. Loud, proud, and very clear about what it sold. Dunking your donut into a coffee was a rite of passage for me. Then, in 2017, this happened. And 2017 me couldn't believe it. That's right, it wanted to be known as just Dunkin', like a one-name pop star. Look, we're all familiar with the rebrand at this point, but what is worth remembering about this time is what Dunkin' used to be built on: variety. Oh, fair warning, we're gonna bounce around quite a bit throughout this whole thing, so to keep you from getting lost, I proudly present my my receipt of how it happened. Donuts like the butternut existed because the lineup was wide. It had
mojo. Mojo, mojo.
But by 2017, the menu had sprawled too far. Executives even said they needed to get their donut mojo back and started trimming flavors for simplicity. This is a well-known business strategy, sometimes called pruning, that allows businesses to streamline processes and focus on what really works. And Dunkin' needed something to work, because that same year, the company was watching customers disappear like free donuts in a break room. Even though revenue looked steady thanks to higher prices, competitors were heating up, and Dunkin' and its franchisees started paying closer attention to what was actually driving sales. Look at this chart showing what % of Dunkin's total sales in the US came from beverages, not donuts. By 2018, beverages hit 58%, a slight drop from the 60% peak, but still, no denying it was Dunkin's main engine. The point is simple. America may run on Dunkin', but Dunkin' runs on beverages. But it still doesn't explain why a donut like the butternut is suddenly just gone. When companies shift what they sell, it's usually because the real money has moved somewhere else. If that kind of behind-the-scenes business shift fascinates you, we put together a quick guide on the boring foods that quietly became billion-dollar empires. We're talking about ketchup, ramen, canned fruit, and even cooking oil. It breaks down the 4 pillars of pantry domination, giving you the key to spot the next big food trend. Just scan the QR code and we'll help you find the next boring food winner. Once Dunkin' realized donuts weren't driving the business, every friction point mattered, even the ones hiding in the crumbs, like in my beloved butternut, which relied on a controversial ingredient. Hey, look, not to break the flow or anything, but is all this talking about donuts making you want a donut? Like right now, it's making me want a donut really, really bad. Is that just me or you too? Comment below, let me know. Hashtag donut cravings. Before the early 2000s, a coconut was just a coconut. Despite its name, the coconut is not a true nut. The Library of Congress defines it as a fruit, a drupe, like a peach. Definitely not considered a problematic ingredient at the time. But federal regulators were beginning to see 2 warning signs. In 1999, the FDA found that many parents couldn't reliably identify allergens on labels. Let's say your kid is allergic to milk. Would you know to avoid casein or whey? What about eggs? Would you recognize albumin or ovalbumin? See the problem? Around the same time, the agency was updating its allergens list. and recalls for unlabeled allergens were climbing, jumping from about 35 in 1990 to 121 in 2000. With problems growing on both sides, Congress stepped in and passed the Food Allergen Labeling and Consumer Protection Act in 2004. It lists the 8 main foods that cause most allergic reactions in the US. Any packaged food containing one of those allergens had to list it clearly on the label, including tree nuts. And what did the FDA add to their tree nut list in 2006? Coconut was officially a bad boy of the baking aisle. Years later, the ripple effect showed up for brands across the food and beverage category. One recall after another hit the industry, each one with coconut as the central character. How did this impact Dunkin'? Well, according to the Coconut Coalition, a trade group formed in 2017 to advocate for the coconut to be removed from the allergen list, now, any use of coconut triggered mandatory FDA allergen safety protocols. By the way, that's not the last that you've heard of the Coconut Coalition. They'll come back into this story a bit later, so stay tuned. But for now, let me show you what those new protocols might look like inside of a Dunkin' kitchen. This is how you make a standard glazed Dunkin' donut. Mix the dough, shape it, fry it, cool it, dip it in the glaze, done. Equipment cleaning every 4 hours. Now, here's how you make a donut like the butternut. Mix the dough, shape it, fry it, cool it, dip it in the glaze, but then you have to apply the coconut crumb topping. As a result, after making them, staff must wash, rinse, sanitize, and air dry every surface or tool that comes in contact with the allergen, and immediately wash their hands and change gloves. They also can't be transported in the same basket as other donuts and must be stored separately, prima donna, on the bottom of the shelf, away from everything else. When you stack all those extra steps together, you can see how a donut like the butternut probably got harder to keep around, even though none of the store employees I asked could confirm exactly why. The ironic part, just as Dunkin' pivoted away from the butternut donuts, the rules around a familiar tree nut started to change. In January 2025, coconut was officially removed from the list of major food allergens. The FDA admitted that coconut and other tree nuts didn't have solid evidence to support their status as major allergens. The science backs it up. Coconut allergies are pretty rare. A 2023 study found that while 0.4% of Americans self-report a reaction to coconut, only 0.18%, roughly 1 in 550 people, have a medically confirmed coconut allergy. Turns out, the Coconut Coalition of the Americas had a little hand in this. That 2023 survey, the CCA underwrote it, funding one of the key pieces of research that became the basis for the FDA's decision. After nearly 8 years of fighting, they'd finally won. Yay! But for whatever reason, that still didn't save the butternut. Because as of this video, I can't find it. I never got a Dunkin' employee at corporate or a franchise to confirm that this is exactly their reasoning, but I have to imagine that if I owned a franchise, and I had to go through all of this stuff just to make one singular donut, as beloved as it may be, I might not want to bother making it. Maybe by the time coconut was cleared, drinks were printing money for the company, and the squeeze wasn't worth it. Even on the drink side, coconut couldn't hang. Statista ranked it dead last among plant-based milks, and Dunkin' removed it as an alternative milk in 2023. None of that proves a direct cause in the case of the missing butternuts, but it does show the environment in which the donut was living in. The honest truth is I may not have found a single factor that killed my beloved butternut donut. Still, I know these things to be true. I can't find it anywhere. Donuts weren't the moneymaker. The menu got pared down, and coconut's tree nut status turned certain donuts into a full-blown allergen project. By Q3 2025, Dunkin' was having a great year, as Chief Brand Officer Scott Murphy put it. Each quarter stronger than the last, thanks to booming ice drink sales. Business is a boomin', even though I'm still missing the golden crumbed love of my life. Since we're talking about what survives and what doesn't, if you want to hear a story about a retailer that both survived and thrived, go check out my friend Noel's video on how Costco cracked Japan. As always, if you like stories like this, brands trying to adapt, evolve, and find their edge again, subscribe to the Hustle newsletter for more stories just like this.
Hey, editor of this video, Jake here, dressed in Dunks and making my on-screen debut to let you know that I have found the coveted butternut donut in beautiful Providence, Rhode Island. Guess we have one thing over Boston, huh, Tori? If any of you lovely viewers out there have encountered the butternut at your location, let us know in the comments down below, and thank you for watching. Cheers.